The civilization of Sparta was one of the most significant and, at the same time, bloodiest cities in ancient Greece. Thanks to Ares, the god of war, its warriors managed to instill fear and terror in all Greeks and even their gods, making the Spartan army one of the deadliest and most powerful military forces in the world. It can be said that the Spartan civilization was entirely different from other Greek civilizations. Their army was one of the strongest military forces in human history, and ultimately, in 404 BC, during the Peloponnesian War, they succeeded in defeating their rival, Athens, marking the beginning of their dominance as a leading military power in the world. In Spartan society, children were considered more as the offspring of the state rather than their parents. They were raised as strong soldiers, with their primary and most important duty being loyalty to the government. Contrary to what is often depicted in films like 300, Spartan warriors were extremely bloodthirsty and had no trace of civilization or humanity. Every Spartan was regarded solely as a soldier for the state, nothing more. Other aspects of their lives were managed by their slaves, while Spartan men were obligated to serve as warriors until the age of 60, when they were finally allowed to retire. They had no choice but to accept this fate in the hope that by dying honorably on the battlefield, they would earn glory and respect among their people. Another crucial aspect of Spartan life was their emphasis on marriage, as they aimed to produce the healthiest and strongest offspring to continue their legacy. Newborns were examined at birth, and if they were found to have any defects or illnesses, they were thrown from a cliff into a ravine to ensure that only the strongest Spartans would survive and carry on their lineage. At the age of 7, Spartan boys were taken from their mothers and sent to rigorous military boarding schools. There, they underwent intense and grueling training in the mountains and deserts until the age of 20. After reaching the necessary level of physical and mental endurance, they were directly enlisted into the armored infantry. During this period, they were deprived of a comfortable life and even basic necessities such as shoes, clothing, and warm food to toughen their bodies for survival in harsh conditions. Interestingly, unlike others, Spartan teenagers were prohibited from bathing with water. Their instructors believed that frequent washing would soften their bodies, making them less resilient. In contrast, they believed that exposure to cold air and dirt not only kept them clean, but also strengthened their bodies. Despite these hardships, Spartan boys rarely died of hunger. This was because their instructors deliberately provided them with very little food, reinforcing the belief that an empty stomach made a Spartan warrior even more ferocious in battle. At school, if children were still hungry and asked for extra food, they were encouraged by their teachers to steal, on the condition that they were not caught. However, if they were caught in the act, they would be severely punished. In general, being skilled in theft was considered just as important as being skilled in combat for a Spartan warrior. Another significant reason why obesity was almost non-existent among Spartan men was the harsh physical lifestyle imposed by their society. If someone was found to be out of shape, the government would reprimand them severely, and in some cases they would even be exiled without food and water to a distant place. In Sparta, military power was the dominant force in governance. The reason Spartans became so renowned was their bravery and military prowess. Their tightly packed phalanxes of spear-wielding infantry terrified all the Greek states, even the Athenians. Over time, Their reputation grew to the point where they earned the title of an invincible army. One of the most brutal aspects of Spartan training was the extreme forms of corporal punishment and torture. Young trainees were sometimes whipped so severely that they died under torture. The rationale behind these was that such pain would increase their endurance and eliminate the weak from their ranks. One of the most painful torture devices used in Sparta was the Iron Maiden, originally of Egyptian origin. This terrifying device was a metal suit lined with spikes and spears on the inside. In Sparta, the Iron Maiden was used to punish soldiers who disobeyed orders. Another fundamental lesson in Spartan training was the principle of never surrendering and never fearing battle or even death. Their main slogan was, "Fight to win or fight to die." Additionally, cruelty and violence were core aspects of Spartan warrior culture. From the age of 7, Spartan boys underwent training in an extremely brutal and savage environment. If a fight broke out between two boys, they were encouraged not to seek help from teachers, but to settle the matter themselves. Teachers even urged them to attack each other and claim their rights through physical confrontation. Those who were timid or hesitant to fight were mocked and bullied by their peers until they learned to shed all traces of fear and hesitation. Historical records indicate that the Spartan government instructed both boys and girls to prioritize health and physical excellence above all else. If a man married purely for love rather than for the physical fitness and strength of his spouse, he could be punished or fined. One example is King Archidamus, who married a woman considered too thin by Spartan standards. Because of this, he was forced to pay severe financial penalties according to the law. Additionally, the government encouraged older husbands to allow their wives to conceive children with younger, stronger men to ensure that each generation of Spartan warriors would be physically superior to the previous one. This policy proved successful as historical sources describe Spartan men as stronger and healthier than other Greeks. Likewise, Spartan women were famous for their beauty and athletic physiques, often surpassing even the women of Athens in physical appearance. Unlike boys, Spartan girls were raised by their parents but remained under strict state control. They were encouraged to participate in sports such as wrestling, archery, and running. These activities helped them develop strong, healthy bodies while maintaining their femininity, preparing them to become capable mothers for future Spartan warriors. The Spartan government emphasized hygiene and physical fitness. Girls were required to bathe weekly and attend public dances and festivals completely naked. The purpose was to shame those with excess weight or skin issues, forcing them to improve their fitness and hygiene before the next event. The ideal marriage age was 20 for women and 30 for men, and remaining unmarried after 35 was a crime punishable by harsh penalties. A unique Spartan wedding tradition required the groom to forcibly take the bride from her father's home. The bride, in turn, was expected to resist fiercely, proving her strength and worthiness. For individuals who struggled to find a spouse, the government organized an unusual matchmaking event. Men and women who were unable to find partners were placed in a large dark room and were randomly paired off to marry. The Greek philosopher Plutarch described Spartan women as being just as courageous and outspoken as men. Unlike the women of other Greek city-states, they spoke their minds fearlessly. Additionally, Spartan women had equal inheritance rights and could own land and slaves independently. As seen in various films, Spartan women dressed simply, while Spartan men often wore minimal clothing within their city. However, in contrast to movie portrayals, Spartan warriors wore heavy steel armor in battle. Spartans did not view clothing as a status symbol. Despite having poor, middle class, and wealthy citizens, there were minimal class distinctions in Spartan society. The Spartan government actively prevented the influence of foreign cultures. To protect their strict way of life, the government banned foreign visitors and restricted Spartan citizens from traveling without permission. Spartans viewed themselves as a superior race, considering other Greeks as inferior. Some of the most famous Spartan battles include their conflict with Athens, the Battle of Marathon, the legendary Battle of Thermopylae, and their war against the Persian Empire.